Okay, so now we're looking at the base of cranium, the base of the skull here. Let's go through the occipital bone. So what are the like big features we need to be able to recognize here?
So the foramen magnum.
Big hole, can't miss it. Yeah, right. And then where are the places where it connects with the atlas bone? These little condyles. Yeah, the occipital condyles. So if turn that one over, Haley, there you go. And then, so these are oriented in slightly different directions, but yeah, so you see where those little spaces are. And then notice there's a little foramen just going to be anterior to the occipital condyles, and that's going to be the hypoglossal canal that comes off to the side. So it's going to be just anterior to the foramen in this, to the foramen magnum in this case, and the occipital condyles. What else we need to know on this? We need to know occipital mastoid suture. We got, yeah, so this isn't so bad. Let's talk about the parts of the temporal bone. So where's the temporal bone on this full skull?
On the side.
Yeah, on this side. So it goes. So it's got they're like different regions. So you can see if hold like this. You can see that there's like the flat part that's up at the top there. Then there's the zygomatic process. That part of the zygomatic arch, right? And again, that's the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. You can see the mastoid process, this kind of bulge right here that you can palpate right behind your ear. And then next to that is the external acoustic meatus.
Which is like your ear,
yep,
the outside of your ear.
Your ear hole, right? And then at the bottom, the sticky outy part at the bottom there, that's the styloid process. So like yet another styloid process. There are two others. Can you think of which ones they are? They're in the arm. One's on the radius and one's on the ulna. Now, if we look on this side, this region here, like where a lot of the ear parts are, we call that the petrous part of the temporal bone. In earlier mammalian history, they were all separate bones. And there's also a hole here. This is the internal acoustic meatus. So this is where the vestibulocochlear nerve is going to enter from the temporal bone. Let's see. There are some other canals that are a little bit tricky to do. Now, this is one, I think, for my money, this is one of the hardest things to be able to put together. We're just going to take out this mandible here. Now, I always think that the jugular foramen and the carotid canal, like they go together like peanut butter and jelly. Like they're both these big vessels that go up the neck. So now here, this kind of bean-shaped foramen is the jugular foramen, and then just anterior to it is going to be the carotid canal. So those two sit right next to each other when we look at the skull in like basicranial view. Okay, now take the calvarium off, the top of the skull off this skull. Okay. Now here, if I look, I can again see this like bean-shaped jugular canal, but like no carotid canal. And the reason is the carotid actually comes off. It comes up through the temporal bone, goes through the petrous part, and then ends up exiting right here, just to the side of the foramen lacerum. So on the skull, especially the one that has the red and blue marks, you can see, and you can see, pardon my finger, I'm going to get a probe soon. You can see this little notch there next to the foramen lacerum. That is where the internal carotid enters the brain pan. What else do we have on the temporal bone we need to do? Any other items?
Did we do the foramen last?
Oh yeah, foramen lacerum. The thing that's so weird about the foramen lacerum is they're like the biggest, like most obvious holes on the inside of the skull there, and like really nothing goes through them. They're actually covered over by just fibrous connective tissue and life. It's probably just because there's a point in the skull where there's not a lot of net force, so we just don't place any bone there.